Good afternoon and welcome back to the homestead. Today we're having pizza for dinner. We have tons of vegetables coming into the garden now, and my sourdough jar is getting quite full, so I need to get rid of some discard. If you're not making your own sourdough bread or your own bread, you might try. If you need to know where I got my starter from, just send me a message in the comments and I'll send you a link to where I got it. I have bought it now 3 times, including giving it to my mother as well. So what you're going to do is, the recipe calls for 1 cup of sourdough discard. And when you're feeding your sourdough, you'll find that you're going to have to get rid of some of the discard or be making bread all the time. I usually make it once a week, 2 loaves. I don't eat a lot of bread, but Mike likes sourdough bread. So to that, you're going to add 2 cups of flour. I'm just using all-purpose flour. You're going to have 1/2 cup of water and a teaspoon of salt. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of oil. I just eyeball that, and I'm using olive again. And you're going to mix that up. When you're using your sourdough starter, you want it at room temperature. I usually feed it a 1/4 cup of flour in the morning and a 1/4 cup of warm water. And it'll start to rise and bubble in your jar. That's when you know it's active, and you want an active starter. And this is a good use for your discard. Instead of throwing it to the chickens or down the drain, I usually make pizza dough. Now, I've made this before, and I've made extra if I have a lot of sourdough starter that I need to use, and I put it in the freezer. On the day that I decide to make pizza, I just take it out of the freezer, put it in a grease bowl, let it come to room temperature before I press it into a pizza pan. And it works just fine. So now you're going to put it on a floured surface and knead it for 3 to 5 minutes. You don't want to overwork it. I usually err to the side of less time. And then I'm going to make a white sauce. So it'll be a garlic Parmesan sauce. So while you're kneading this 3 to 5 minutes, to get it ready to rise for 2 hours. So you just want to put it in a grease bowl, let it rise, and go about your day. I have done it with 2 hours before, 1 hour before. I've made it and stuck it in the pan. It's just a thinner crust if you don't let it rise. So if you like a thin crust, that's perfect. While mine is rising, I'm going to go back out to the garden. I've got strawberries that have runners on them. And if you want to have a lifetime of strawberries, you just cut those runners off and plant the green part in the ground. And it's a great way to expand your berry patch. So you'll have it double next year. So I've already planted about 20 feet, and I'm going to go out and pull the rest of those runners and plant them in the rest of the tiered garden. Okay, that's about it. You want to shape it into a ball, stick it in a bowl, and wait 2 hours. When the 2 hours is up, we'll be back to make pizza. Okay, so it's hot out there. I ended up planting about 25 more strawberries just by using the runners. Now my dough has rested for 2 hours. In the pan, I have 1 cup of heavy cream and a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. To that, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of butter, more or less, a little pepper, again white pepper, and about a teaspoon of garlic powder. That goes on the stove to heat up to a boil, and you need to keep an eye on it and stir it often. So it has risen quite a bit. You're just going to dump it onto the pizza pan, and you don't need to oil it. It's got enough oil in the dough already. And you're going to just smash it in. Now that my sauce is on the stove getting ready to boil, you need to turn your oven on to 400 degrees. And you take your sourdough crust and you start smashing it into the pan. The pan doesn't need any grease at all. It's got enough oil in the mix. And it doesn't have to be particularly pretty. It just needs to taste good. Mm-hmm. There's enough here for us to have dinner tomorrow as well. Okay, in the bowl I have fresh jalapenos chopped, corbachi peppers, and onions. You can put any topping that you want on this. Now that our garden vegetables are coming in, we look forward to putting a lot of those on pizza. But no pizza is pizza without pepperoni.
Right.
Now that the sauce is ready, you want to go ahead and pour it over the pizza. Now this sauce makes more than what we like on a pizza. So if you want to make breadsticks out of your sourdough, you could do that, or you could just save it for later. I usually put on what we like and put the rest in the refrigerator. It will hold for some time, and we try to have pizza about once a week. So as you can see, there's still a lot of sauce that is left over. If we were to put that on there, it'd be way too much for us. You may like it like that. Okay, now comes the fun part. You want to put the cheese on as liberal as you want it. We like a lot of cheese on our pizza. Okay, now for the pepperoni, or whatever meat you're using. You could use bacon, ham, hamburger meat. When I worked at an Italian restaurant, my favorite was a bacon cheeseburger pizza, and we used hamburger and cheddar cheese on that. And when I get ready to go for a break, the guys would make sure one was made up for me. And in the oven it goes. Now it goes into the oven for 12 to 14 minutes. And it's done. The only thing left to do is to cut it and eat it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me back in the kitchen today. Now it's time to eat. Until next time, cheers. Thank you for joining me back in the kitchen today. Now it's time to eat. Until next time, cheers.